what has impacted in terms of the moral culture, the moral values of the society?
It has actually really changed. There is a dynamic. There's a group of people that have the ability to think and analyze. And the classical model, one of the fundamental structures is that you learn language. You usually learn Latin, which for Western civilization, Latin is one of the foundational structures. And the way they have built the language helps you to understand other languages and also how to think, how to form an argument, and the logical steps to test that argument, and then to determine if the premises are true, that the result or conclusion is true. And if you don't have that, which is the bulk of our society, the American society does not have the ability to think, what are the actual consequences of these premises? Where do they lead and where does it go? And if you've taken that away, you have a society that just emotes, meaning they just move on emotion. And so if you can sway their emotions, it doesn't matter whether there's a logical reason behind it. If you put them in fear, they're going to follow. But in counter to that, the classical education gives you logic and reason for you to be able to take that and analyze something and say, this doesn't make sense. Why would I follow this? With these premise, this conclusion does not follow. It's a red herring, or it's in some way it doesn't actually follow, and they're able to think. So we have a subset of our population. So we've got really two different things going on. We've got a mass or majority of people that really don't understand how to think or how to think logically, and then we have a subset that actually understand logic, but they don't go along with the general public or with the general rules.
So the two angles I wanted to go from there is, how has that impacted because US has been called the superpower or superpower from a point of view economics, is the financial hub of the world, where the money flows, or from where the money flows out and inwards both. How is that, and also as you said, the larger population, the education is not that, they're not been trained to think and then put the logic around. So how will that impact the workforce? Because for large economic superpower, you need to have good workforce supporting that architecture, and to be sustaining that position, that title in the global economics, you have to have that workforce supporting you.
Yeah, and this is actually the greatest fear right now, that anybody that's a rational thinker that has understanding and has the ability to understand. America is built on a house of cards. Since 1973, when we got off the gold standard, and we've moved to a fiat currency that has no real value in it. And we've at the same time, so our money does not have anything of value between it, other than the Bretton Woods Agreement, that we all agree that America was going to be the reserve currency, and we promised at the time that we were not going to get off the gold standard. We now have really a house of cards. And at the same time, the Americans, other than the fact that we have an entire moral system that's really been cut off from its roots of Christianity, we've got a moral system that's really bankrupt. And it's a very scary time. One of my mentors is Peter J. Daniels, and he was from the World Center for Entrepreneurism, and he's an Australian. And he spent his entire life, after he made his billions of dollars, coming to the United States, trying to encourage Americans to go back to their roots, to realize that the rest of the world is looking to them. And when we do these things, like build our debt into the trillions, 30 trillion, $34 trillion, there's no way. We're scaring the rest of the world because we're out of control. We don't have an economic system that's actually stable right now. It is as if we're using a Jedi mind trick. All the money's just fine. You have a population that can actually do jobs. We don't. It's a house of cards, and it's scary. And I know the rest of the world, if they're looking at this, are terrified. And honestly, they should be.